Hello and welcome everybody to the Intel Extreme Masters Katowice 2018. We started with 76 players from all around the world, and after 2 days of a crazy open bracket, 52 more players were eliminated. There were some notable dropouts like last year's Katowice Grand Finalist Stats and 6-time GSL finalist Sue, but this round of 24 group stage has had some wilder results. Let's take a look at the highlights from groups A and B to catch up with all the action.
Day number 3 in Katowice saw upsets. Favorites fall, favorites advance, but most importantly, ridiculous games, boys. As Group A shaped up the way we thought it would, Group B was anything but. With TY and Solar, though, advancing through to the groups, out of their groups in the round of 8. The current reigning, defending, and undisputed champion of the Intel Extreme Masters World Championship has an opportunity to defend his title. Today, it's 2 more stacked groups of Starcraft action. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Intel Extreme Masters Katowice.
Welcome to the Hacks Pre-Show.
And welcome to the battle station here for day number 4 of the Intel Extreme Masters. To my right-hand side, joining me, my name's Kyle Laris, and we have Pig, we have Artosis to get things rolling. Gentlemen, so far, so good. We've had 3 days of great StarCraft action. Yesterday, though, I think surpassed a lot of people's expectations when it came to who was able to advance, who's not able to advance especially.
I thought that Group A was really good. And then I saw Group B, and I realized that Group A was trash.
There you go.
Okay, like, Group A is for a normal tournament. Group B was IEM Katowice in a nutshell. Just madness, upsets all around, innovations out. Thermal was a killer, somehow didn't make it through. Hurricane turning it on. I mean, it had it all.
Group B was the most wild group I think I've ever seen in one of these tournaments so far, Pick.
That was insane. As always, going down to the very last match to decide who goes through. Innovation was fighting for Terran at the end, couldn't quite keep it up, but so cool to see Hurricane going through to the next stage. And Solar, the guy who we were a little bit iffy about going into this tournament, absolutely destroyed yesterday. Not a shadow of doubt in his play. He looked so good.
Well, we can talk about it in a little bit more depth, of course, as we have to break down what we do have here for the tournament so far. So we can take a look at Group A, how things shaped up in regards to that, of course. Oh, we're actually going to take a look at the groups that are happening today, even, I should say. So it's going to be Group C. We have Impact, Rogue, Nerchio, Serral, Zest, and Neeb. This is a fantastic group.
Well, I was originally saying that this was the hardest one to predict. After seeing Group B, well, again, it was wild. But Group C, it's like you look at this lineup, everyone is so good in this group, and you might look and be like, yeah, I mean, maybe not Impact. Maybe Impact doesn't get out. No, I swear to God, if you watch him at his best play, it's good enough to beat everyone there. So this group is going to be a wild way to start the day.
Your initial thoughts, Pig, about this group?
Cyril, the Finnish hope. We talked about him. We hyped him up last year at this same tournament, and he was the one foreign player to actually make it through to that top 12, and unfortunately did go out quite decisively, of course, to Dark there. But, you know, he's come into his own. He's won a WCS championship at the start of this year. He's made it to BlizzCon last year. He's a beast. He's looking really, really good. So I think Cyril's the guy where there's a lot of hopes, and there's also a lot of fans who are hoping he can live up to his potential, because this isn't just a WCS event. This isn't just a regular circuit event. You've got to play everybody. The competition is harder than any other tournament in existence, so it's just going to be a very cool battle for the young Finn.
Zest's a gentleman that sticks out in this group as well, a guy that has earned the prestigious title of Intel Extreme Masters World Champion. Can he do it again?
Yeah. Well, Zest was basically the best Protoss in the world for years and has won more titles than most people. Last year, he was off a little bit. It was really weird because like you'd watch him on stream and stuff, and he'd qualify for some events, but he never really brought it through. Now, this year, he's kind of picked up the pace, but he did have a disappointing for him IEM Pyeongchang.
Yes.
Right? So that made it a little bit worrisome. If I recall correctly, a laser kind of handed him his hat, made him go home. With like a 3-1 or so, and it was pretty decisive as well. So it was kind of surprising because I was looking at that as maybe Zest wins, but Zest is still in fantastic shape. He's stated that he feels like he was lazy last year. He's practicing hard right now, and he is in top form. So this could be, you know, that big championship that Zest missed out on last year.
Well, let's take a look at Group D as well, as we have still lots to cover here for the Intel Extreme Masters day number 4. Laser, Classic, SOS, Trap, Hero Marine, and Ryung. Another fantastic group, but this one's a bit more, what I feel like a bit more sporadic in what could potentially happen here, Pig.
Yeah, I mean, you look at players like Ryung who have these moments of brilliance, and sometimes they're a little bit underwhelming. Hero Marine, he's so stable and consistent in the European scene, but almost never do we see him take down a Korean powerhouse. You know, we saw him make it through to the group stages last year as well, and he didn't actually have any really great performances there, but Hero Marine has been getting better and better. And then, of course, you match this against those guys, the top 3 names there, a Laser, Classic, SOS, people who we expect great things from. Classic, maybe if you haven't been following recently, is back in form. He's looking fantastic lately, and that's been, I think, a refreshing breath of fresh air for some of those Protoss fans.
Yeah, and I mean, those Korean Protosses are fantastic. Those 3 Protosses we see in there, I think, are all players that are capable of even winning this tournament, right? They are super strong. They're in great shape. But Laser is, for me, like the non-Korean player, aside from Scarlet, that I really see as the most potential to take down these top Protoss players.
Okay.
A Laser's play, like, I know that Cyril is kind of like the guy, he's seen as like the top of Zerg in Europe, but for me, a Laser, his style, the aggression that he mixes in, I look at him and I say, oh wow, you can just make upsets absolutely anywhere and everywhere.
Well, yeah, he was always very good against Protoss and Zerg. It was his Terran that let him down a little bit, I suppose. We have SOS in there. Again, another former Intel Extreme Masters champion. World champion even, I should say. And I'm going to ask the same as I asked against Zest. Can he do it again?
He's in tip-top shape. Like, absolute tip-top shape. He's had a funny couple of years where he barely doesn't make it to BlizzCon. He's been doing things like making it to GSL finals, not winning and stuff. He just made it IEM Pyeongchang finals, didn't win, but he's been at the top of the Korean ladder. He's ready for another big championship.
Yes. Well, we've got plenty of time to talk about these players throughout the day, as it's probably going to last another 12 hours again. We've got tons of StarCraft coming for you throughout the day. For now, though, we are going to get things rolling for Group C. One of the most anticipated groups here for the Intel Extreme Masters is Group C. So many guys in this group that you look at and think to yourself, well, you know, they probably could be able to go all the way and take it all. Some underdogs, you know, like you mentioned there as well there, Artosis. Impact is someone, for me, when I look at this group, he kind of comes in as one of those underdogs, but he's not to be understated.
Yeah, like, I guess he's still an underdog, but he did take down like a VSL tournament last year that was super stacked. I know it's not watched that much outside of Korea, but it's a studio tournament and it had all the best players. And the thing is, he's a little bit sporadic. Like, as Zerg, I'm sure that you've seen a lot of his games, and when he plays well, he really plays well.
Sometimes he comes out with the cleverest builds, these really tricky play styles, but also just great execution behind it. He's always been an aggressive mastermind, but as you said, sometimes he does drop the ball in the past. He's not as consistent as these other guys, and speaking of consistency, I can't help but focus on Rogue, the guy who won WCS Championship last year. He won the Global Finals, but classically, his weakest matchup is Zerg versus Zerg. And that's why this group is fascinating for me, because it's a real testing ground. It's like, okay, this is where you keep getting knocked out. This is where he was eliminated from GSL by Scarlet in Zerg vs. Zerg. It's where he had his closest calls in BlizzCon last year as well. So for him going through a group with 3 other Zerg players, it's going to be a really tough test. And I'm just fascinated to see if he's kind of shored up those weaknesses in his play.
The only player, in fact, to actually get through via invite, just true invite, to the round of 24. Of course, every other player had to qualify, but him being the global finals champion of 2017, he earns that honor to be able to come and compete here at the Intel Extreme Masters World Championship. Let's talk about looking at Nerchio as well. He's actually one of the players that we're going to be focusing on in one of our first matches as we get things going. But in my mind, Nerchio is the most consistent non-Korean of all time. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I think you can give it, like, it would be a toss-up him and Snoot, in my opinion, but he's right there, right? He's been one of the top players since the beginning. He's remained at the top, even though we keep on having big names rising up like Neeb and Cyril.
Yeah.
He's always top 5. Like, he's always right there. And, I mean, the fact that he's qualified for this tournament, here he is in the group stage, he's still in really great shape.
It's so funny with Nerchio, isn't it? Because he's one of these players who has a big attitude. He comes out there. He has, you know, I think he's kind of a bit controversial sometimes because he's got very strong opinions, and people either love to cheer for him or they love to kind of cheer against him. But he always performs incredibly consistently, and I feel like he's not as flashy as some of the other players who play a lot faster, some of the younger players. He just kind of plays his own game, and he has a very clear idea about what he considers the way to victory, and it's usually well outside of the established meta.
And for this kind of group, especially with this many Zergs in it, he's basically bred by fire, bred in fire. In the European scene where we have so many good Zerg versus Zerg players, do you think this group kind of benefits him, the makeup of it? What do you think?
In my opinion, it does not. I want to see him in the other 2 matchups a little bit more than his Zerg versus Zerg.
Okay.
He's kind of a macro player, a player that thrives in staying alive and living through it all and coming out the other end. And when I see him with the matchups like having to go up against Impact, for instance, who will mix in a lot of aggression, I see that as a way that Nerchio can be thrown off a bit. So I think it's a tough group for him.
Okay, and then let's look at the flip side of his first opponent here, who is Neeb. Three-time. That's right, champion for the WCS circuit. And realistically, he's just one of the names that has now become synonymous with non-Korean StarCraft 2. Even when he was able to go and take that Casper Cup in 2016, that's where he really rocketed onto the scene. We knew him before, but until that point, everyone was like, okay, it's Neeb. Now everyone's like, it's Neeb.
It's Neeb, man. He's the guy you think of when you think WCS. He just wins so many tournaments, and he's so consistent. And you look at the history between these 2 players, out of their last 10 games, Neeb won 9 of them. He was on a 9-winning streak before finally Nerchio actually beat him in their last encounter 2 months ago. But that's an insane win record. And that last one, which Nerchio won, a very close match between the 2, whilst there have been a few one-sided ones in Neeb's favor. So overall, we've seen Neeb dominating Nerchio.
Yes.
Of course, that includes a matchup in the WCS Austin Grand Finals last year, a very important match. This wasn't just a group stage match. So Nerchio historically has had a lot of trouble with Neeb.
Yeah. Artos, your thoughts when it comes to Neeb?
Well, he's Neeb. like you said, it's Neeb. Like, this guy is a killer. He can beat absolutely everyone.
Yeah.
He is universally respected, which is not always the case. Like, you talk to any top Korean pro, any top non-Korean pro, they're all like, yeah, Neeb's one of the absolute best. That's it. Amongst all races, amongst Protoss, however you want to divide this up, he is just a player that can win any tournament.
I have a bit of a thought-provoking question, and I want to hear your opinions on things. With 2018 rolling around, and after his placement at WCS Leipzig, has the foreign scene caught up with him a little bit more? Is he kind of, I'm not saying he's fallen behind, but I'm asking if everyone in the foreign scene kind of stepped it up a little bit, seen the success of Neeb, and then said, okay, we really have to step up around him, and then kind of push ourselves forwards.
I think it's a pretty reasonable assessment that you give there. Like, to see Neeb go toe-to-toe with the Korean players, to just go over to Korea, win a tournament straight up that hasn't happened since the year 2000 in StarCraft is a giant thing. And we've seen the non-Korean scene just get better and better and better. And it seems like we're just kind of getting into this steady progression of everything getting closer together. And yeah, these other guys are playing out of their minds. We saw Showtime take him down, and we see great matches from Cyril against him, from Special against him. A lot of people have kind of hit this level now.
Yeah. Pick your short thoughts.
Honestly, I think Neeb is out of this world good, but for him, it's not necessarily being head and shoulders above everyone else just with his raw skill.
Yeah.
It's the fact that he's clutch. In these pressure moments, he brings it. He couldn't do that in 2016 when I felt like his base skill level was just head and shoulders above everyone else. Okay. Over the last year and a half, he's just branched out. He can play any strategy. He can adapt to any situation, and that's what he's been doing. He's going to throw out different builds every game. It's going to be really hard for Nerchio to keep up.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. It's time now to head over to Smix, who's getting ready for us on the stage.
Hello and welcome, Katowice! It is so fantastic to be in front of this Polish crowd, and our first match of the day for Group C is also going to be a great one. Upcoming is a 3-time WCS champion and American hope, and he'll be going up against a Polish home crowd favorite and WCS Valencia champion. Katowice, give it up for Neeb and Nerchio!
That's right, the crowd has arrived and we are ready for Neeb versus Nerchio, the 3-time WCS champion against the hometown hero, one of the greatest foreigners of all time, Rotterdam. What are your thoughts on the series?
I think this is an awesome series to start the day with, Maynard. We had a very long day yesterday, a lot of awesome StarCraft. Obviously agree with the boys at the desk. Group A was cool, but it was kind of a straightforward group. Then Group B, that's truly where the madness kicked in. I have a tough time predicting this one, I really do. I think even Nerchio on his best day, especially with some hometown support here, I think he can absolutely do it. I think he can surprise a couple people, but he's going to need a good start here, and it's going to be very tough, of course, against Neeb.
There is definitely a magic here in Intel Extreme Masters Katowice where the Polish players seem to put in a little bit of extra. Even like I'm thinking that the hometown has a bit of extra magic. Even back in, Shanghai, other side of the world, where Ayasonu had that home crowd, all of a sudden, he's tearing apart a bracket that you would never assume that he would. And that'll happen here again for the Polish players if the crowd gets behind him. And we have got Neeb's quotes here.
Very modest quote.
Very modest, yeah.
Neeb, come on. Quarterfinals, semifinals, that's the least we expect. Curious to see what Nerchio has to say. Of course, he performed incredibly well in that qualifier. He was able to defeat some sick players in a row. He took out even Sero in his EVZ. I think he took out Elaser as well. He played phenomenal in that qualifier. And it wasn't even too long ago. It really seems that Nerchio has hit almost another level again over the last few weeks. There was a time where he was good. We used to call him Mr. Consistency. But that's pretty much what it was. Nerchio was beating the people we expected him to beat, but then he would lose against the absolute upper echelon of the European scene. You know, whenever he would hit either Sero or Elaser, or he would go up against Neeb. But I feel over the last 2 months, Maynard, he's been taking those names down again.
He certainly has, and that's really comforting to see as, you know, me personally being a fan of King Artur for many, many years, always puts a smile on our dial when he does well. But of course, you know what? Neeb's also a fan favorite, so it's kind of hard for me as a fan of the game to decide who I want to win this, but I think the crowd's got a pretty good idea of who they want to win this one.
Of course. Now, if you think about Nerchio's ZVP, Nerchio is one of those players that I've in the past mentioned multiple times that he struggles in this matchup. He's not always too happy when he has to go up against these Protoss players. But I must say, I'm a big fan of his style. I think he's really one of the only players out there that uses lurker drops non-stop, uses a lot of multi-prong aggression. I think he's excellent in splitting up his army. Now, of course, can he somehow find a weakness in the defenses of Neeb if Neeb does decide to play a rather standard game when it comes down to a Stargate opening and then Immortals, Archons. We all know what Protoss players like, and it's disgusting, Maynard. Protoss players literally only want one thing, and it's disgusting. And, I mean, obviously, Nerchio's going to do his best to do something about it.
That's right. This is, of course, a rematch of WCS Austin Grand Finals from last year when Neeb and Nerchio had a pretty electrifying series on stage. It was, of course, a different stage of the game. The way the units work, the balance, a lot of the abilities of units have changed since then. But what hasn't changed is that both these players are still at the tippy top of StarCraft 2. I'm very, very excited for the series. Like you said, this is hard to predict, and I actually kind of agree with Pig on the desk as well, where I think Neeb's got a big bag of tricks as well. He's not a one-trick pony. He's not going to do the same build every game. He's going to try and mix it up. You know, I'm sure we'll be seeing Stargate openings and that sort of thing, but I would be very surprised if he didn't shake it up at some point in this series.
Yeah, he's definitely capable of executing multiple builds, and that's kind of what you need to do, right? If you want to be a tournament champion like Neeb has done over the last year, he's won tournaments everywhere pretty much. He's won tournaments in Europe, he's won them in North America, and of course he had that one massive victory in Korea quite some time ago already. But the same can be said for Nerchio though. He's also a tournament champion multiple times over the years. There are very few players that have played more competitive StarCraft 2 games than Nerchio. I would actually not be surprised, Maynard, if he's the one that has played the most offline games, because Nerchio has literally been around since 2010. Even though it took him a little bit of time before he really started to hit his stride. A little bit of fun memory, perhaps, but in the very old days, Nerchio used to play random in the first few months of StarCraft 2.
Yeah. And
then eventually, somewhere, let's say 4 or 5 months into the game, he decided that Zerg was his race to go, and he never swapped.
And Neeb used to be Terran.
That's true.
And, and now he's picked the Protoss pieces, and he's been very successful as he found his stride.
In an alternate universe, this could have been a TVT, man.
Or a TVR. I like where it's at, though. You know, obviously, Nerchio has always been flying the flag for the foreign scene for Zerg, along with Snoot, and now, of course, Serral and Elaser, sort of the new blood here in the scene. And Neeb's been the big NA hope, like everyone in America gets behind him. Of course, now Scarlet's starting to look really good as well, so there's multiple North American players that really are potential tournament winners, and that's very, very good for his scene. Oh, look, he's stealing Nerchio's. He takes the King Artur's crown has been taken away from him. Who is this lowly subject that dares put his hands on the crown of the king?
I think he's making sure to see if the cap doesn't interfere with the noise-canceling headset. I mean, that's a proper admin right there, Maynard.
It is a proper admin.
He wants to make sure there is no noise slipping through by those Fnatic Netwar guys in the audience.
That's right. The king would never normally allow peasants to be touching his clothing, of course, but he has been given the free for all. So looks like there's probably a little bit of a technical issue at the moment. Like both players just making sure they're as comfortable as possible. Obviously, the series matters a whole lot. This is the very, very beginning of the group, but we saw yesterday in brutal fashion almost, that map score, every series, every map matters a lot when you get to the end of the group.
Yep, especially in these big round-robin groups. Even if you end up losing a series, just taking a map can be incredibly important when it comes down to that final score. There is always a good chance for ties, especially if you're in a 5 or 6-man round robin scenario. The top 3 will advance today, guys. The top 3 will advance towards tomorrow. Winning the group is also very important because that means that you will get directly seeded into the quarterfinals, while the second place finisher will go up against the third place finisher of another group. So if you get second place in this group, Maynard, you could potentially go up against maybe Hurricane?
Maybe. And if you get first place, you're going to be in this pretty scary round of 8 as well, but a little bit richer, so you feel less bad about it. All right, the series is about to begin. Nerchio and Neeb, the WCS Austin Grand Final rematch happening here on the stage in Katowice. Will it be Nerchio or will it be the North American player? Let's introduce them. In the bottom right, from Poland, the Zerg, Nerchio! And in the top left from North America, showing off for Neeb, this is Ting's Neeb!
Neeb looks excited. He looks quite relaxed. Now, it did take a couple minutes to get this series started. This is something that often happens with the first series of the day. Of course, the players move from the practice area to the main stage, and they want to make sure that everything is the same. Starcraft players are very picky for all the right reasons. This is it's a fast game, Maynard. It's a very intense game, and if something feels off, you just don't want to play. Like, I love Starcraft. It's by far my favorite game in the world. But if something is off, I don't enjoy it. It needs to be perfect, or I'm just not enjoying it.
Yeah, you know, I travel a fair bit for these tournaments like yourself, but usually when I travel, I like to play a little bit, you know, because it's like with you, it's my favorite game, and I find it really, really fun. But it does sting a little bit if your keyboard's not quite right, or the desk is the wrong height, or you know, your mouse settings are reset because you're on your laptop instead of your home PC. It's yeah, it's a little bit awkward.
Out of game can be annoying, but that's something that I feel like sometimes you just have to get used to, you know, different desk, different chair. But in game, everything truly has to be perfect. If something feels off, you're just going to have a disastrous game. Now, Pick also and you too mentioned that this is a rematch of the WCS Austin 2016 circuit event. That was a good final, but they had another massive series. And that one is a little bit over a year ago, and it was a big one. It was in the playoffs of WESG, also a $400,000 tournament.
Oh, yeah.
And that was one of the most memorable things that I think I've ever seen in StarCraft 2. The score was 2-2, so it was a nail-biting series. And in the 5th game, Nerchio had a deadly army. He had Infestors, he had Broodlords, he had almost everything. He basically, all he had to do was spread out his units a little bit, and he would get the victory, and he would have knocked out Neeb. Instead, the Broodlords clumped up a little bit too much. Nothing but storms rained down. The clips were all over Reddit, and somehow Neeb pulled off a victory that was really not supposed to happen. I'm sure Nerchio still has some sleepless nights about that engagement. But that's funny as well. You see it with these two guys. They've just got a lot of history with each other.
They certainly do, and they're also very good at sort of, you know, remaining composed as well in very, very stressful situations on the big stage, which is always impressive to me when you separate like a really good player from a great player, is how composed they can be on big stages and big matches. We are seeing a Stargate opening here from Neeb, one of the best openings in PvZ, if not the best opening, because of how many you know, abilities you have with a Stargate opening. You can be defensive, you can be aggressive, you can have scouting information. It's quite safe, quite standard. And looking pretty standard for Nerchio on the other side of the map as well. Just 3 hatcheries, bunch of drones, handful of links just to deal with the adept harassment, and plenty of queens to also deal with the Oracle.
Yeah, safe is truly the key word that you mentioned there, Maynard. We don't make Stargates as Protoss players all the time because we are that much in love with it. It's just there's a lot of very scary other Zerg openings out there. Neeb actually cancels his shade. He's going to run into the natural. Zergling speed is not done. You don't want to end up losing an Adept this early, though. And one Adept is going to take a lot of damage and probably will go down.
Oh, the second one as well gets taken out. That's actually not worth there for Neeb. 3 drones gets taken out, which is nice, but both Adepts die.
Yeah, those are the 2 adepts that you normally need to secure yourself to go up to 3 bases. Because now these Zerglings are going to be very annoying. Of course, you have the Oracle, but the Oracle is supposed to do some economic damage on the other side of the map. You want to use Pulsar Beam aggressively, not defensively. And one Adept actually doesn't have that much firepower. I think Neeb is in a little bit of trouble.
I agree.
This Adept is going to go down.
Can the drop wall.
Wow.
Oh, that's a slick move there from Neeb. Wow. Very, very slick.
All right,
oh my
I stand corrected. The Adept does not go down. It lives with 2 health somehow. And of course, somehow Neeb keeps the Zerglings out as well. That's Neeb for you.
It is, man. Sometimes when you haven't seen him for a while, you forget how good Neeb is. And then little things like that just show you that he's got the, he's got the skills to pay the bills. All right, so nice little pylon spread here from Neeb, and he knows that he's playing against Nerchio, so this is a good thing to do because Nerchio does like drop play, and he does like being cheeky from time to time. And just utilizing stasis wards as well, so being as careful as possible with the Oracle, not getting much harassment damage done, but with a couple of Oracles, oh, he's trying to catch these drones. Just getting a couple, no big deal there.
Yeah, so far I think that Nerchio is quite alright with how this game has gone. Didn't really take too much economic damage. He did quite some damage on these air units already. The double Oracle opening wasn't devastating. These Adepts already shading out this very early, because if you look at the production tab, Resonating Glaives is nowhere near done. So you want to be very careful when you send out 5 Adepts towards the middle of the map. He could potentially send 2 or 3 additional Adepts, maybe even split up his forces. But if these Adepts get surrounded, they're going to be in a lot of trouble, Maynard, because without Glaives, they are simply not super powerful.
That's right, and in fact, there's a bit of a timer on how effective these Adepts are going to be in small numbers, because there are going to be Banelings available for Nerchio as well, which are fantastic against clumps of early gateway units like Charge Lots and Adepts. Nerchio is the kind of guy that really still loves Ling Bane Hydra. There are some Zergs that like Roach Ravager play and that sort of thing, but this is his bag of tricks here against Neeb. Finds a little bit of an opening with these Oracles, gets a couple drones and just leaves.
Yeah, he has forced out some units with an Adept move out, right? But the timing on Glaives is a little bit off. Showtime likes to often do this as well. You open up with a Stargate, but you get a very fast Twilight behind it with very fast Resonating Glaives. And you can kind of shade out around like 5 minutes, 10 seconds with a lot of Adepts with Glaives. You can see we're already at the 6-minute mark now. Now, I must say, this is an insane amount of Adepts.
Wow.
And Nerchio doesn't have too many units, but he is morphing 8 Banelings. He's going to morph a few more, and he's got 22 Zerglings on the way. But Neeb is going to try to split up his units.
Whoa, Neeb's going to be very careful here. He does pull back off creep, and I don't know if he's going to finish this shade or not. It's a little bit risky. He does. Wow. Some of the Banelings are finding the Adepts, but with the Oracles helping out as well, this is a devastating attack.
Yep, this is going to do quite a bit of damage. There's a lot of Adepts still looking very healthy. The Oracles are going to help out too. Let's see how much economic damage Neeb can get done here.
He's only killed 2 drones so far. He's starting to rack up those kills now. The Queens were helping out with the Oracles on the other side. These Adepts, of course, at the third, can shade and bounce between the main and the natural wherever they want to go, which is something that Nerchio needs to keep on track of. Picks off 1 Adept here. There's another low hit point, one in the middle, but it survives, but gets surrounded by Lings. And here are the Oracles to help out, but they're out of energy.
Yeah, unfortunately, the Oracles are out of energy. In the end, I actually think that Nerchio handled that all right. Of course, he lost a lot of Lings, and he did end up losing quite a few drones. But I feel that could have been even worse than it was, Maynard. He's still at 64 workers, and let's not pretend that didn't cost Neeb anything, right? Those are 11 Adepts with Resonating Glaives. You can't just throw away that many units like that and expect to get nothing done. So I think it's actually still quite even. Nerchio took damage, but I think he handled the situation quite all right.
Certainly. Some force fields going down here to keep his units alive. Now, considering Neeb is, would you say that this tech is for Colossus here from Neeb? It makes a bit of sense against the Hydras. Yep, there we go. But I was just thinking, like, if you keep making Adepts, then maybe Disruptors could work out for you because the charge lots aren't up with the face, but of course...
It's very hard, I think, to take care of Banelings then, though. I mean, unless you can somehow get all the Disruptor hits that you're looking for.
Whoop.
And I think you need something to truly tank for your army, right? Like, if you don't really have damage from far away, I think it would be hard. I think Colossus makes sense here against all these light armored units of Nerchio. But it's very possible, though, Maynard, that he gets 1 or 2 Colossus and then maybe adds in a Disruptor or 2.
Certainly seen it in PvT a fair bit as well. It's just the Colossus have consistent splash damage. They don't have explosive firepower of the Disruptor, but they're just consistent and a little bit easier to micro. We do have the Ling Bane Hydra army here for Nerchio. He has been enjoying Lurker play, but I haven't seen the Lurker Den from him just yet. Of course, the Hydras need to be up in number a fair bit here to handle any kind of counterattack from Neeb if he wants to try and, you know, force an issue here down at the 4th or the 3rd base.
Did Nerchio scout the Colossus? That's a big question, because I think if he would scout them, then there is a very good chance. I mean, he saw the Robo.
Yeah, hasn't seen the Robotic Spay, though.
No. I think if he would have known about the Colossus, then I think there is a good chance he throws down a Lurker then, because Lurkers are absolutely fantastic against Colossus. But perhaps he's just going to try to get a great engagement. I like these little run-bys from Neeb with just 2 Adepts. Going to be able to get a couple of drones here and there. Doesn't get too much done this time, but I still like him trying it.
So Neeb postures forward here with an army and then pulls back to this Nexus. He may still go for an attack, but he looks like he wants a few more Archons in his army here before he goes out. Nerchio does have space, and he's going to use that space to get himself up a spire to deal with the Colossi. Can be pretty effective, you know, getting some Corruptors out, maybe Broodlords later on in the game can be pretty effective against the late game Protoss ground army. That is, of course, down. That's a while away if he intends to go down there. He needs to stay safe up until that point.
If you, ooh, that's kind of random. These 4 Hydras on the left side of the map almost felt like they were looking for a Warp Prism, perhaps.
Yeah, they didn't even have muscular augments, so they were quite slow. They were off creep. It's just finishing up now.
Just trying to get perhaps a lucky Prism, or maybe buying some time. Nerchio perhaps a little bit afraid of those Colossus. If he gets a bunch of Corruptors though, the game always gets interesting. Corruptors are very good against his army, but it's important that you avoid the Archons. You're going to see Nerchio move his Corruptors as far away from the Archons as possible and try to get a couple of cheap hits off on the Colossus, because that's the only way you truly want to take those fights.
Well, Neeb's on the outside here with an Observer. I like that he's dropping Stasis Wards as he moves forward, by the way, just in case Nerchio wants to go for a flank. Should be able to deal with a good chunk of that flank there. A flank is a very, very powerful tool against the Protoss army like this, which is so strong and a big ball on its own. Nerchio's units are all down here in the front of that natural, and some transferring drones getting picked up. It's nice for Neeb there. He still has the ability to recall as well, of course, if things go badly. But so far, he's doing a lot of damage to Nerchio's army.
Yeah, Nerchio just doesn't seem ready for this army of Neeb. Neeb doesn't even have a Prism here. Imagine if he did have a Prism.
Oh! Baneling's connecting here with the Colossi, a couple of them left over, looking for more Colossi kills. Oh my god, another Colossus goes down, third one just still alive. And yes, the Stasis Ward does catch some of these Hydras, but Nerchio somehow pulled an engagement out of that.
It's kind of crazy that Neeb is on 81 probes and just made this attack without a Warp Prism here, Maynard. Why wouldn't he have a Prism if you really feel like you want to commit to the attack? He did, of course, reset the army quite a bit of Nerchio. Neeb's economy is insane. Seeing a Protoss at 83 probes is not super common. Now even a 5th base is going up and Neeb is getting stormed. At the same time, Nerchio is still pumping out Hydra Ling Bane.
Yeah.
But normally when you make Hydra Ling Bane, the Zerg is supposed to be the aggressor. The Zerg is supposed to be the one on the better economy and trying to overrun the Protoss opponent. Instead, the tables are turned.
Well, Nerchio is going to try and be aggressive right now. Looked like he wanted to go for that, you know, that top right base, but it's a little bit tough here with his Protoss army being so close, and leaves him open for a charge lot run by here as well. That hatchery is almost certainly going down, and he even splits off some Zealots to go to the bottom left.
There's still Stasis on the left side there as well, and this Stasis is going to trigger at least quite a few links.
And the Banelings are rolling in, looking for that Colossus again, but this time it's still alive, and he micros back to the high ground. Will the Banelings get one of these Colossi? It looks like the one in the middle goes down. One in the front gets very, very softened up. The Hydra is getting a concave on the right-hand side here. This Nexus of Neeb is under pressure, Roddy.
Yeah, quite a few probes going down as well, but can he get close to the Colossus? I personally don't think so with just Hydras off creep. Now these Lings are freed up, actually, and these Zealots still going to town on everything in the left side of the map.
And Nerchio killed that Colossus. He's going to kill the other one as well. Oh, my God. Storm is done here for Neeb, and he's going to have some great storms to deal with those Hydras that he does, but he loses a Nexus.
And 27 probes.
Yes. I mean, Neeb and Nerchio are still equal in workers here because of the insane economy of Neeb, because these chargelets have been doing damage on the other side of the map, but Nerchio cleans up Neeb's counterattack.
Damn, you could really see that Neeb was busy with a lot of things at once there, because I think normally he's not supposed to lose those Colossus there. Hydras off creep are not supposed to get close enough. The Banelings weren't really there anymore. Now we do still have plenty of Size Storm on the map for Neeb, and that's of course very important. He's actually not remaking Colossus right now. I wouldn't really mind it, but perhaps he just wants to get a couple of Immortals out to make his army a little bit more tanky. Look at Nerchio, he's getting +1 flyer attacks. Could potentially be gearing up for a switch to air units. He hasn't used the Spire just yet.
Well, he's got a fair bit of a gas bank here, and I know that Nerchio does love Infestors in the super late game, but he hasn't seen any Stargate tech, or you know, the late game tier 3 Stargate tech anyway.
I think he might be going for some Mutas, Maynard.
Maybe, yeah. Big bank of Mutas could definitely make sense, and there it is, 11 on the way here. And this is something that can definitely catch a Protoss with their pants down, especially when they're making Immortals like Neeb is right now.
Yep, 2 Immortals at a time. Now, of course, in the straight-up fight, the Mutas are not incredibly scary for Neeb. He's got Archons, he's got Storm, basically all the things that he needs.
Just gets out of damage there. Looked like it was going to fly across those Hydras.
At least there's still one Phoenix there. It's very important for Neeb that he picks up on this as quickly as possible. He could potentially... Oh, wow, he drops the Fleet Beacon already. I actually think that's for a Mothership more than for Phoenix range, but we'll see. He is going to spot the Mutas now, though, and now I truly wonder, how are you going to react against this, Neeb?
He's making Archons. He doesn't really... I mean, Storms are nice, but the Mutas are so fast, and Nerchio's not bad at this game, so he can just avoid them. They go straight to the natural here, where there's no defense from Neeb, no shield battery, no cannon, and a bunch of these probes are going to go down.
A single Phoenix is going to fly straight into these Mutas, will actually go down. Neeb is going to take even more economic damage. Does drop a Storm, he's going to drop a few more. At least he has one cannon there to buy a little bit of time for himself.
I think Nerchio might be getting a little bit too ham with his mutas here. There's some free damage in that natural, but he's looking for the 4th base where there's a lot more economy. And Neeb's army is pushing back to try and punish these mutas for their harassment here, leaving the map open for Nerchio with his ground army to move forward.
A couple of Stalkers are going to be wiped in the natural. It seems like the natural is the weakest spot right now. Nerchio seems to agree, gets a few more probes there. At the same time, he's going to try to run over this base on the right top side of the map. If Nerchio can get that Nexus on the right top side, that is a big blow to the economy of Neeb.
Nerchio's also slowed down +3 attack here for the Protoss army, and he's starting to attack this Nexus, pulling a bunch of his Zerg units back just in case. Storm's going down on those Banelings. The mutas are still in the main and unchallenged, starting to depower some of this incredibly important tech, and the Nexus is going to die as well. Massive moves here from Nerchio.
Yep, Nexus down, 17 probes down. Nerchio is losing a lot of units, but he's got a great Aspire on the way. The only thing that I would be very afraid of if I'm Nerchio right now is
an attack.
What if Neeb just runs across the map and tries to end this game? Is that possible?
Oh, that's right. If you steal the honey, you better be ready for the bear. It's going to start chasing him now. And if Nerchio can defend, then he's going to be in a beautiful spot in this game. But Neeb could certainly kill him right now with this army.
Yeah, Neeb's army is terrifying. The Great Aspire is almost done. Corruptors are almost out. Look at those screens. They're just running away. They're like, we're buying time for everything at home. You know, follow us in the middle of the map. Prism gets taken out. That's nice. But Neeb doesn't really have the money right now for big reinforcements anyway.
Lots of storms here from Neeb. One goes down here on the Lings. He's looking for the Banelings and the Hydra Zone. That's the scary part of Nerchio's army. And Nerchio's just making as many tier 2 units as he can. He's not even going to bother trying to squeeze out some Broodlords here. Maybe even get a few of these Corruptors into the corner and turn them into Broodlords in safety. But is there anywhere that's safe now against Neeb? Oh, storms are going down. Some of the Corruptors are taking damage here. The mutas even joining in, taking out some of these Archons. There's more Hydras left over for Nerchio. Nerchio closing the distance here. Baneling's coming in for the back. It's too much. GG. Nerchio with a beautiful game 1. WCS champion be damned. He's showing the world right now how good he still is at this game.
Damn, now that's a proper way to start the second day of groups here at the Intel Extreme Masters. Loved it. What a very fun back and forth game. In the beginning, it looked all right for Nerchio. Then Neeb is truly running away with the game. He's got a massive economy. I didn't really get the attack without the Warp Prism on the right bottom side of the map, but Nerchio making a lot of good moves later on. Excellent way to start the day, Maynard.
Indeed. And it looks like we're going to go over to the desk to see what else is happening here in Group C with Kolaris and the boys. Take it away.
Thank you very much. Nerchio 1-0 up at the moment against Neeb, the king of Poznan, doing very well indeed. Let's head over to Artosis, who does have Rogue versus Serral 1-1 at the moment.
Yeah, 1-1. They had a crazy macro game on Backwater, you know, getting into Vipers and Lurkers and all that stuff. Game 2, we saw an all-in from Rogue that Serral was able to hold and then counterattack against. Now this game, Serral has had a bit of a lead. His third base was a lot quicker, and he has kind of been up in drones the entire time. He's kind of taking his time, being careful, but he has been up in supply. He's been kind of roaming around the map, and Rogue is just doing what he can to produce and stay alive at this point as he gets poked.
All right, well, thank you very much, Artosis, for that update. Still, as I say, that 1-1 will continue on. Next up, we do have Impact against Zest. That series seemed to have ended a little bit quicker than I was expecting, actually, Pig.
Impact came out of the gates roaring, man. He was on fire. He took a quick 2-0. We can hop into game at number 1. I've got the replay open here, and we can look at a crucial moment. Impact opened up with a fast hatchery first on the gold here on Neon Violet, went up to 3 bases, and then against the 2 Stargate Phoenix, decided, you know what's good versus Phoenix? Nidusing a whole bunch of units into your base. But it actually, you know, Zest was playing very safe. He had quite a lot of units, but he reacted with a bit of panic. Pulled every single unit out of his wall. So even though he was well prepared for the Nidus, these Zerglings just charge in. So he's dealing with the Roaches as they pop out, but the Zerglings get into the natural. They do massive, massive damage. And he actually ended up a little bit behind after that. He stabilized, almost got back in the game, but Impact managed to take him out in the end.
Thank you very much, Pig. Artosis is signaling me that it might be the end of Rogue versus Serral very soon.
I think Serral's trying to finish him off right now. If we can jump into my game just real quick here, I think that Rogue is up against the wall. Yeah, look at that. GG.
Oh.
Serral takes down the defending global champion of the world.
Of the world.
One time.
That's right.
In Rogue. So that's a big first win. I mean, this is someone you got to look at Rogue, and he won a bunch of tournaments last year. He should win Katowice. Nope. Losing to Serral right off the bat.
Losing to Serral, a scary group if you're losing to Serral here with this many Zergs in the group. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Getting you updates from all the time here at the battle station for the Intel Extreme Masters. Time to head over the casters once again as Neeb goes up against Nerchio.
Thank you, Kalaris, Maynard, and Rotterdam here. My God, what an electrifying way to start this series. That game one was action-packed. You don't see Banelings killing Colossi every day. That's actually a move that, you know, we just saw Rogue on just go down a Serral there. That's something that I expect Rogue to do, like just roll in a bajillion Banelings, killing all that tier 3 tech. But Nerchio pulling a rabbit out of the hat there with engagements that on paper, I was like, it doesn't seem like he can win this.
The attack front that Neeb made on the right bottom side, while he had that massive economy, that actually looked terrifying at first, because yes, the Spire was done, but we didn't really have a proper answer against the Colossus yet. There were no Lurkers, no Corruptors, but Neeb also kind of messed up his Colossus control. He lost them multiple times against Banelings. Now, if Banelings roll into Colossus, it's not good unless the Colossus are clumped up. Then you can actually somehow take them down. Either way, plenty to talk about that game one, but let's get ready for game two.
All right, in the bottom left, the North American Protoss from Ting. This is Neeb.
This group is terrifying, Maynard, with Serral taking the victory over Rogue already.
That's right. And the top right, currently on match point. Give it up for Nerchio! Already filling up there in the auditorium. It's nice to have a crowd today. We felt so lonely for 3 days here, Rotterdam.
Definitely felt a little lonely yesterday.
Right.
It feels good. Katowice is just so much fun every year. It's been fun, but especially I think the last 2 years, this year and the year before, since we've been using this format, I'm just loving it, man. Just every day is a joy. We've had so many games that you would already recommend to all your friends to watch.
Definitely.
How you normally have a couple games over an entire weekend, I feel like every day we've had multiple games where you say, you gotta watch that game. It was amazing. So far, Maynard, we're getting spoiled over here.
Absolutely. Every time I talk to anyone about Katowice, I have like a little twinkle in my eye. Like I've been to the last 4 in a row now, including this one, and it's just there's something magical and special about this event. I always have such amazing memories. I remember each year very, very vividly. Like it doesn't blend in the background. Obviously, a lot of the WCSs don't either because they're fantastic, but Katowice, there was a reason why people were still talking about it 8 months later in 2017. It was just a very, very special event. And 2018 is no different. So far, so good here.
Who are you looking to make it out of this group, man? Just do a little bit of theory crafting with Impact, Rogue, Serral, and Zest, and obviously these two.
I got to say, you know, a lot of people have been a little bit worried about the non-Korean performance so far in Group A and B. I mean, even with Uthermal, right on the edge there, nearly getting out of Group B. But I think that Serral, in my eyes, is almost a sure thing to come out of here. I'm not worried at all for Serral's tournament life in this stage of the tournament. I think he's going to come through. But, I mean, Neeb also is a huge contender, but you can't ignore the fact that even though Rogue's not amazing in ZVZ, he's still amazing. I feel like Rogue might be one of the top 3 as well, but to pick the third one is so tough.
I wouldn't know it either. That's why I ask you.
Yeah.
I do agree with you about Serral. I honestly feel that Serral has just elevated this game non-stop since like almost over a year by now, and he's just every time he's getting better. And of course, you can't always win, but he just he really seems in control of almost every single game that he plays. And you gotta love watching him. And you know, perhaps he was a little bit disappointed about what happened in the Intel Extreme Masters Pyeongchang, because you know, losing a ZVZ, he wasn't that used to it anymore, Maynard. So Serral's probably out for blood this tournament. Yeah,
definitely. And showing that he still has the ZVZ tools to get it done against Rogue. Let's talk about this game for a second. The Observer brought it up a little bit ago. Just want to address it. Nerchio is trying to be, you know, a little bit greedier than normal here, pulling some drones out of gas, getting a bit more mineral income to try and shoot up in drone count and in base count. See, the third base is already complete here, and he's droning it up. You know, leaves you a little bit vulnerable to this Adept harass that Neeb did on Catalyst in the last game. But I believe in Nerchio's ability to defend. He still has a good chunk of Lings, and also, of course, Queens are getting up there and count as well.
Is it 3 Adepts at the moment?
Yeah, there you go. All right.
And he's also opening up with the Oracle rather than going Phoenix into Oracle. So I'm curious to see if Neeb is going to do one. No, he's going to follow it up with a Phoenix. But of course, you got to be on your toes as a Zerg player. Just because there is an Oracle and a Depths, it doesn't mean it's going to be a standard game. Especially not once that Phoenix is out. The Phoenix is going to gun down those Overlords. And at that point, it's a little bit of a guessing game for Zerg. And the only way they can truly scout is just to be active with Zerglings and keep a close eye on potential third base locations for the Protoss. And of course, what leaves the wall of Protoss.
I like that he has this little sensor net of Lings, just like a Ling dotted here and there all in the high ground outside of Neeb's base, keeping an eye on everything. The Overlord comes in here. Obviously, he knows about the Stargate tech already because Phoenix shot him in the face, and the Oracle's trying to harass his drones. But what else is happening here for Neeb? So far, it's so good, but we're seeing a Robo getting dropped down.
Yeah, that's different than the previous game, of course. In the previous game, we saw that pretty fast Twilight console. He's still getting a Robo and a Twilight at the same time. But it is quite funny, because if he once again decides to go for, let's say, Resonating Glaives, it's going to hit a little bit later than it could potentially hit. It was sort of an anti-timing in the previous game. He didn't hit as fast as you would normally expect it. He hit later, but then he hit with way more adepts. It was like 11 or 12 adepts shaded to the other side of the map.
It doesn't look like an adept timing. This guy, it kind of looks like an Archon drop play here for Neeb. It's a little bit tough to see. We've got a couple of Oracles coming in. They get a Queen. Nice pick off there for Neeb.
They're going to get the other one too, because it's already quite low on HP and it's quite exposed.
Wow.
So this is actually quite nice. I mean, it's going to slow down the production a little bit of Nerchio with these adepts in the middle of the map as well. But Neeb not having Resonating Glaives here, this is actually kind of scary. I think 1, 2, perhaps 3 adepts go down.
Oh, maybe all of them. Oh, just
4.
one survives with so little hit points. 10 hit points remaining here for the Adept.
Uh-oh, and now that Neeb might actually have a very tough time keeping his Nexus alive, right? Because he lost the majority of his Adepts.
Yeah, he's got 2 high hit point sentries and 1 very low hit point Adept here. Nice force fields from Neeb so far. And here are the Oracles. They have a bit of energy. Will it be enough to deal with these Lings? It looks like it will be.
Well, a bit of energy is the right way to describe it. It really doesn't seem like that energy, or excuse me, the Oracle on the left is running on much, but somehow it was enough to keep that Nexus safe. Great force was there by Neeb. If he messes up, he ends up losing his sentries immediately. Now he's got the shield battery and an Immortal, so he's a little bit safer.
Yeah, plenty of tankiness here in the defensive capabilities of Protoss now. The Oracle's getting across the map again, but this Queen's alive. She has full hit points, and there's also a Spore and a second Queen to help her out as well. Neeb is going up into a pretty quick Templar Archives here with Charge, so Charge Lot Immortal Archon going to be on the field shortly enough. And Nerchio, once again, just powering into Tier 2, getting Ling, Bane, and Hydra one more time.
Yep, double Evo on the way as well for Nerchio. Uh-oh, he's got 4,000 observers.
Oh my god, what a scrub.
There is a mistake. So double Oracle's going to fly by.
Where's the Queen?
He could potentially help Nerchio there by killing one of those workers, or at least give him the alert. Come on, Nerchio, don't send 4 to the extractor again.
Yeah, come on, mate. Obviously, I was wondering where these Queens were because you...
Maybe he does it on purpose because that other base wasn't done yet, but now these Oracles that were on the way. I love how he's getting the second emergency Bailing Nest. He already has a Bailing Nest, of course.
Yeah.
His Bailing speed is on the way.
That's right, and it could actually just save that drone, I feel, with a higher hit point structure, but a little bit of a wonkiness here in the early stages.
I hope he cancels it. I mean,
yeah, it's...
It's not the end of the world if you make a double Bailing Nest in this phase in the game, but it's of course kind of unnecessary.
No shakiness.
Neeb is playing a very different game, man. Now, previous game he was also rushing into those Colossus, and I honestly felt the Colossus were not a bad choice. I felt he got himself in a decent position. Once again, I think the one big attack on the right bottom side of Catalyst could have done a lot more. This game he's playing a different game. He's going straight into Storm, straight into Chargeables, and obviously quite a few Immortals as well.
Yeah, so he's going to rely a little bit more heavily on Templar tech and use the Immortals to deal with the Hydralisks while the Templars and the Zealots deal with everything else. Very, very fantastic against the Tier 2 army that Nerchio likes to work with that Ling Bane Hydra. These Oracles, a little bit of bother, but Neeb too good with his control to lose them here. Pulls them all the way back. He's going up for a 4th base here while Nerchio is still chilling on 4 hatcheries with, you know, less workers than the Protoss at the moment.
Neeb is moving out. He does have a War Prism this game, but that army actually looks a little wonky to me. I mean, it's a great army, of course, if it's well positioned and well protected, but without the Archons, just High Templars by itself, if Lings get on top of it, you're going to have to storm your own units, and that's not a position you really want to find yourself in. So Neeb instead is going to run back home, which I think is a much better choice.
Nerchio actually loses a lot of Lings here, or not loses, but gets a lot of Ling stasis here to trigger that trap. And it almost looks like a certain overextension if he comes into this, but like you said, there is a lack of Archons, which could certainly turn the tides here.
Infestation Pit, Dropper Lords on the way. Now I wonder what Nerchio is going to do. I wonder if he feels that this is a game where he should drop Hydralisk. He of course did get Overlord speed, as the Observer pointed out as well. But I wouldn't actually mind a couple of Bailing drops. You know, you could either drop them on top of High Templars, but you can also just go for some mineral lines instead. You can see him loading Banelings into these Overlords. 15 more Banelings on the way.
Yeah, he's definitely going for a Bane Rain here. It might not even be for the probe line. It actually might be for the High Templars here at the 3rd Nexus, or the 4th Nexus here of Neeb. Because that is a juicy target right there, Roddy. Look at all those High Templar with so much energy.
Yep, there isn't too much anti-airs. We're taking a look at the first-person view of Nerchio. How does he execute an attack like this? Here come the Overlords.
He's going for it. The Storm's going on. The Overlords are very low on hit points. Neeb pulls all the way back, and the Overlords do go down. So Neeb survives for now, but the Banelings are closing again. Storm's going all over this. Oh man, the defenses, the Storms here of Neeb are so good. And he keeps all of his scary high hit point units alive. And looks like the Prism's on the other side of the map, but no charge loss yet. He's going to lose it. He's concentrating too much on that defense.
Yeah, you can't blame him though, because if those Banelings connect with the High Templars, the game is over there for Neeb. Then he just doesn't have the DPS anymore that he needs. But fantastic defense there by the American Protoss. Gotta give credit where credit is due. Keeping those High Templars alive, avoiding all those Banelings that were coming in from A, multiple angles, and B, from the skies as well. Really good hold by Neeb.
Definitely. Well, I mean, Nerchio can still utilize this plus to attack, though. The probes, you know, the probes are extremely weak to +2 Banelings. If you drop them into the middle line, it one-shots all of them, so it's a ton of probes always go down if the Protoss isn't a split-second trigger reacting to it. We can see that we have a Hive on the way here for Nerchio. And what is going to be the Tier 3 tech here for Nerchio? I would imagine, I mean, he does like Broodlords, but...
I think Broodlords makes perfect sense against his army. Going into Ultralisk while your opponent already has a bunch of Immortals, a bunch of Archons, often not the most ideal choice, but we'll see as we've got a little skirmish over here on the left top side of the map, but it's unlikely that Nerchio wants to commit again. If you take a look at the units lost in this game, I have the feeling that you can see that Nerchio lost quite a bit more. I mean, all those Banelings are tiny units, but if you make a crazy amount of them, they're actually quite expensive. And you can really see that previous attack didn't really work out for our Polish Zerg.
Another charge lot run by here for Neeb, but once again, Nerchio has been doing very, very well against these run by attempts. I don't think a Prism's here at the moment, so once again, Neeb is reinforcing via the ground path.
This is why creep threat is so important, right? It just gives you those couple of additional seconds to get ready for 4 or 5 Zealots that are storming towards your base. It seems like Nerchio's gonna get a cancel on this 5th base, but at the same time, his army is also gonna be a little bit caught off guard in an awkward position. There's once again the Sacrificial Queen.
Yeah, she goes down, but I like that Nerchio pull those Hydras back. Speaking of pulling the Hydras back, charge lots get warped in to defend this 3rd Nexus in the north base here for Neeb. And Neeb takes very, very little damage. Did force a cancel, I think, but the Nexus is still on the way.
Yeah, the Lynx could actually get another cancel there. The Lynx are just chilling below these Overlords. Meanwhile, these Zealots are actually going out for blood on the left side of the map. And this is a very powerful army for Neeb.
And it's very, very anti-Ling Bane here with all these Archons, and Storms are available as well for the Hydras, so Nerchio has to give up the hatchery, and he's taking a ton of damage on his units as well. Neeb pressing the issue with his army, loses that Observer to Spore Crawler, but no big deal. He still has his High Templar alive, plenty of Immortals alive as well. Might need a recall now though. Nerchio's starting to close the distance, or does Nerchio even have enough?
The Archons were so tanky and did a lot of damage there. A few more Archons are morphing. Nerchio calls GG.
Neeb ties it up 1 apiece. We got ourselves a series here. Gonna go to a decided map to see who starts off with a 1-0 in this group.
This really came down to that amazing hold at the 4th base for Nerchio, where he just kept all of his High Templars alive. He identified very quickly there were potentially Banelings in those Dropper Lords. He moved them out of the way, he focus fired. He didn't have much anti-air, but he had sentries, Archons, and 1 or 2 cannons. And he just really focused on those Overlords, kept the High Templars alive, and then it was raining storms, Maynard.
It was raining storms and pretty rough weather in and out of the building here in Katowice. It was pretty cool to see Rogue in the front row there on the crowd shot to just watch these games, knowing he's going to be up against one of these guys at some point. Oh man, great showing there from Neeb on Blackpink. Of course, Nerchio shows us that he can go the distance here against this incredibly scary North American Protoss, who has 3 WCS crowns and a Kersper Cup crown.
Yeah, solid transitions there by Neeb. What's also fun to mention is that towards the end of this game, both players very high eco again. They're both above 80 workers towards the end there. And that's crazy, Maynard. That's a trend that we didn't always see in the past. You know, for a while we really used to think that 66 workers, that's really sweet. And if you want to go crazy, you know, you can go 72, 74. But very often you see these pro players in multiple matchups going up to 80 workers. And then you've got TY who goes over 100, you know.
Yeah.
It really seems that the game is evolving in a way where these pros just feel even more eco is better, smaller smaller armies is fine. Let's just keep recycling units over and over and over again.
Well, that's one of the coolest things about StarCraft, right, is that the game continues to change, even without balance patches, just people discovering new and interesting ways to play the game. And that's one of the reasons why I love it so much, and one of the reasons why it's remained interesting for almost 8 years long. In the bottom right here, winning map number 2, this is Ting's Neeb! Oh, they're getting ready. In the top left here from Poland, the Zerg player, this is Nerchio!
What I do love from Neeb is that he's already shown us 2 completely different styles. A lot of Protoss players these days really feel that there is just like kind of one way to go against Zerg. And from that point on, you just kind of adjust a little bit, right? But Neeb really playing 2 different styles already. I am, of course, expecting a Stargate again here in game number 3. Opening without a Stargate is just very risky. It becomes very hard to hold certain all-ins. But after the Stargate, wouldn't be surprised if we see something a little different again, or perhaps he might go back to Resonating Glaives like he did in game number 1.
Just keeping that one probe in the gas here. Going to take his seconds shortly enough, with that Nexus being the priority here with this expansion build from Neeb. Nerchio looking pretty regular back at home as well. Just hatch gas pull. All things considered pretty regular so far. But this, so far from Neeb, we have been, as expected, seeing some different tools from him. So obviously game 1 wanted to go for Colossus. Game 2 decided to go for Templar tech instead, with, you know, a quicker robotics facility, no resonating glaives, so straight in a charge, straight in a storm, and that worked out for him very, very well. There are a lot of ways to deal with the Lingbane Hydra that most Zergs, including Nerchio, like to go for.
Now, what we always love to do is make some predictions, right, about stuff we could potentially see. And I really feel that this is one of these maps, Acid Plant, where Nerchio could potentially go for big drops into the main base of a Protoss player. It's a larger map, and as the observer is very eager to show us as well, this is just a sweet spot. There's a lot of space there on the north side of the Nexus to potentially drop. There are multiple angles that these drop lords could fly in. Seeing Lurker drops, seeing Hydra drops is a real possibility in this game. And I honestly feel that's where Nerchio shines. I feel like that's his best way to play this matchup. And I feel like he has a lot of success with it. And he often even undersells it himself a little bit. Where he says, oh, I can't do much against Protoss. And I watch his games and he's dropping Hydras everywhere, man. Slaughtering nerds left and right. And I'm like, come on, he's so good.
He's not the only player that's like that, but... Of course, a pretty amazing Zerg here. He comes in and sees the Stargate opening, so, you know, he probably could have predicted this without the Overlord, but he's just dotting his I's, crossing his T's, making sure everything's where it needs to be.
The one time you don't check it, there is actually a Twilight console, and there are 7 adapts shading across the map 4 minutes and 10 seconds into the game, and that's when you don't have a Baneling Nest yet. So you don't want to take that risk. It's obviously free to scout with the Overlord as well, so you may as well confirm that things are normal.
Neeb doing the exact same thing, just shading forward, having a look at the drone saturation, seeing how many lings there are, seeing where the Queen is as well. Seeing a couple of depths, just like game 1, with Neeb just going across the map, trying to look for drone kills.
Yeah, with circling speed, 80% done, you got to be very careful. I like what Neeb is doing here still, dancing on the edge of creep. He's probably going to let the shade finish, actually. Wow. Goes into the main base, gets 3 drones immediately, and a lot of lost mining time. Might get the 4th one. Yep, he does. I think that's all right. If you get 4 drones and you force all the drones to temporarily stop mining in the main base, I think that's a trade that most Protoss players will be okay with.
And that's a solid start here for Neeb. Nerchio trying to take the map back away from him, sending some lings out to see what's up. Catches that Oracle, or just rather sees that Oracle is on the way here, but of course Nerchio has those spores coming up at a all right time here in the main and in the natural.
The economy of Nerchio really has been slowed down, though. That actually hits you hard in this phase in the game, because you're not looking at a Zerg that's already... Ooh, second drone goes down as well. These drone kills are starting to rack up here for Neeb. I think Neeb is very, very happy with how this game has gone. Once again, in the early stages of a game of StarCraft 2, economic damage is a lot more meaningful than it is once you're on 3 or 4 bases. Because, of course, losing 6 drones over 35 drone economy is massive. Losing 6 drones over 70 drone economy, yeah, it stings sometimes, but it's not really a big deal.
A nice pick-off here for Nerchio, though, getting a couple of those adepts that were on the outside of the wall. A little bit of counter damage here from him, but of course, like Roddy said, the real story here is the economy. Baneling Nest going down here.
But this is nice for Nerchio. This is exactly what he needs. He's trying to slow down that Nexus a little bit. Would have been awesome if he could somehow swing around with those lings and get that probe just one time, because that really starts to slow things down.
Yeah. He still could, but the Lings aren't thinking about that right now. They're going out for scouting, seeing if it gets dropped. Oh, this Queen is on the outside. She gets caught by the Oracles.
Now the Phoenix could potentially lift the other Queen, and that means that these Oracles only have to worry about a single Spore Crawler. There's actually no Queen here. The Queen is a little bit late to the party.
Oh, man.
More drones going down.
So yeah, Nerchio is up on drones, but this is lava and money that he would have rather put otherwise, or rather he would rather be a lot more drones ahead at this point with the 3 hatcheries, considering Neeb's Nexus isn't even done yet.
Yeah, what you often see in Protoss versus Zerg, guys, is that Protoss is like kind of ahead in workers until like 4 minutes and 50 seconds, and that's kind of when the Zerg overtakes the Protoss. Right now it was like 40 seconds later that Nerchio really took a worker lead for the first time in this game. These Lings are going to be able to get a Zealot and an Adept, but that's probably all they will get. But it seems like we're still heading into the mid. Oh, it's 3 Oracles this time. More drone damage incoming.
And the Queen's going to come in, and she can be lifted by the Phoenix here, and the Oracle's got free reign. One of them does go down the Spore Crawler, but they are getting these drone kills. Thankfully for Nerchio, they're out of juice, or it could have been way more carnage.
That really could have been a lot worse. And Nerchio actually had a big round of drones going up behind this, so he's still ahead in workers, and he's going to be even further ahead in workers. And of course, Neeb investing in 3 Oracles rather than in 1 or 2 Oracles does mean that his additional follow-up is a little bit later. As you can see, charge only now starting. I think Nerchio's alright. He definitely took a little bit of a beating in the early game, but at the same time, Neeb has been investing in some units.
Yeah, he's quite far from dead here. He's been droning very heavily, actually. All of his lava production cycles have been into drones.
He's getting 12 more drones, which means he's going to be close to 80 workers again before heading into Hydras, Zerglings, and of course Baneling's speed is on the way. Just a single Evo chamber for now, I believe it is. Previous game we saw the double Evo style. He is getting Overlord speed though, Maynard.
He certainly is. Maybe seeing those lurkers we've been kind of predicting here.
Lurkers or just Hydra drops in the main. I think Nerchio is also very good in splitting up his army and hitting multiple angles at once, perhaps like having a couple of units into the natural, a big drop in the main, and then still having a squad of Hydra somewhere on the left side of the map.
And this is something even like I remember Scarlet doing against SOS, of course, like, you know, all kinds of crazy plays with the lurkers and the Hydras and all. She loves lurkers though. Nerchio more about the Lingbane Hydra into the Spire stuff. Oh, he's going to break down the rocks here. This is always great for the Zerg, opening up the map a little bit more so you can go for surrounds and that sort of thing. Shorter rush distances, of course.
How many Oracles are still alive? Both of them, correct? He lost 1, yes. I think the Oracles are going to be key here for Neeb. It's going to be very important that he keeps stacking this army of Nerchio. Now, the way that these games often play out is that Zerg is going to try to break down the Protoss. The longer the game goes on, the better it gets for Protoss. The more Storms will be available. Ooh, that's a lot of damage on one of these Oracles. The more Storms will be available, the higher the Immortal count gets, the better it gets for Protoss, right? But if you don't know where the Zerg army is coming from and you don't know about a potential drop heading towards your main, you could be caught out of an awkward position, and if you end up losing 20 probes, that's often the beginning of the end, then it just snowballs. So Oracle's very, very important here.
There is a second Evo now for Nerchio, so he's getting +1 attack for the Lings and Banes and also for the Hydras. Generally, Zergs don't get Carapace with this kind of composition. Oh, that's a lot here from Neeb. Lots of Storms and plenty of Immortals. But he doesn't really have like a tanky wall though. Not too many Adepts, not too many charge lots.
Nope, it doesn't have too many Archons yet either. Nerchio already sending a lot of forces to the other side of the map. And 4 Dropper Lords are on the way, and those Dropper Lords could potentially head towards the main base of Neeb. This is the Nerchio we know and love, Maynard.
He certainly is. He's loading up, and it's up to Neeb to try and catch this or react to it as soon as possible, or he's going to take critical damage here. Potential game-ending move from Nerchio. At least could be critical damage, or Neeb could hold on. Meanwhile, Neeb looks like he has to have his attention split here as Nerchio sets up for an attack for the ground at the 3rd.
Yep, Phoenix is going to spot it though, but is that going to be too late already? I mean, the Oracles were just defending, dropping stasis wards. Now Neeb is going to know he could potentially recall some units into the main base. Let's see how he handles this.
That's a lot dropping out here. The Stalkers are coming out for an attack, but there's too much here from Nerchio. His units are in the main, tearing it apart from the inside. He gets deflected at the 3rd Nexus. So far, though, Neeb has Archons and Storms here to be able to stop him. But can he slow him down in the main? He has to clean him up here and maybe even recall a split some of his units. Even Nerchio attacking this base as well.
And Nerchio is everywhere at once, but a couple of Immortals did make their way into the main base. At the same time, Neeb didn't really take a lot of economic damage. Some of the damage he took was actually by himself. He stormed his own probes in the gas there. Good defense though by Neeb for being as out of position as he was. Very solid hold so far by the Protoss.
Getting that Archon's a nice pick off there for Nerchio, and unfortunately lost a few banelings there, but in the end, both players just did damage to each other and then came back looking very, very even.
The fact that Neeb didn't lose probes, I think, is the most important thing here. He also morphed a couple of his High Templars into Archons. Once again, the longer this goes on, if there's no Broodlord tech on the way or something, it's always good for Protoss.
Yeah, relying on that tier 2 tech here is Nerchio, very similar style to, you know, a laser who we're going to be seeing a little bit later today against Protoss. Can Nerchio get it done with this mid-tier tech? Looks like he's going to load up the Overlords again and go for it. One of these are already quite damaged as well.
Yeah, that's risky, right? Against 4 Stalkers, especially because it's one
at the
flying
front,
in front, so that's going to tank the first shots. Nerchio's got to be very careful there. You don't want to lose an Overlord, but 4 Hydras, that's some serious precious cargo.
He's going to unload here on the main again. Neeb's army once again down here at the third, but with these charge lot warp ins, he should be just fine here.
Yep, that's plenty. Oh. That's a couple of massive storms as well.
Oh, those storms are quite devastating. A lot of those Hydras are giving a lot of damage. Not too many banelings left over.
Neeb pushing Nerchio back away from his infrastructure, even taking out some of these dropper lords. I think he did lose that one with the full load there. Just missed the end of it.
Yep. I mean, when we looked at it, there were only 2 Overlords surviving. Maybe 1 or 2 Hydras were unloaded, but since that one was in the front, it was always going to be the first target by the Stalkers, whether Neeb was looking or not. But since he's Neeb, he was probably looking.
Probably. He's everywhere at once. He's omnipresent. The Overlords are dropping creep here, giving more like vision for Nerchio than anything else because it's not blocking the Nexus. And it gets an Oracle here. There is a couple more stasis wards, so Nerchio's just, you know, forcing a cancel a couple of these cannons.
Ooh, this is a big catch. Oh my god, these Archons and Immortals all by themselves. Nerchio with a big pickup here with his Hydralisk, and the Banelings rolling in as well.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, these Hydras are doing damage down here. Neeb's attention, we were just talking about it, and it's we never expect his attention to be split, but it was certainly split that time.
Yep. Fifth base gets cancelled as well. There may not. Come on, get the pylon too. That's actually Neeb is floating a little bit of money. It almost seemed like he was trying to do too many things at once. Of course, he cancelled the Nexus, so you get some money back. Just when things were starting to look really good for Neeb, Nerchio gets himself a massive break there by killing those Immortals and Archons.
I think stuff's going to get pretty interesting here. He's loading up more Overlords, and he's also a lot of army supply ahead with more Lings and Hydras on the way. Neeb's trying to go up into the mothership here to get his army cloaked. There's no extra Stargates here, so no Fleet Beacon either, so he's not trying to go up into the Carrier Death Ball, but it can be very, very nice still with his army on the ground.
Those Stalkers are still there, though, in the main base, right?
Just the one.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's a very brave Stalker.
A couple of those guys can't join their brothers in arms, but these ones can potentially do a lot of damage here. Just the one Stalker and one Charge Lot in the main base.
I love how Nerchio is non-stop expanding as well on the left side, even taking 9 o'clock at this point. This time, I think it's very likely that Neeb will take at least a little bit of damage.
Is that Banelings?
Yes.
Oh my god, Neeb's not reacting. He's going to lose a lot of probes here.
It's two
Hydras as well.
From units. Morph into a Bane quickly.
If only there were Banelings. Didn't see the insides of those Overlords here. We don't have the PCs in front of us, but Charge Lot run by here from Neeb. How much damage can he get done? The answer is not that much. Maybe get the Queen.
I'm starting to get a little bit worried though for Nerchio. This game is slowing down, and that means that this army of Neeb is getting more and more scary. And soon it's going to have a mothership as well, Maynard.
A lot of Banelings being morphed here. These Charge Lots are almost certainly dead. He's just breaking off a few Banelings. Doesn't want to lose all of them. Of course, they need to survive for the main fight.
What's interesting to see is that Neeb with his super high eco style, right? Once again, he was over 80 workers. Now it's still 79. He's investing a lot in static defenses. A lot of shield batteries. A little bit of move commanding here on the left bottom side. A lot of shield batteries and a lot of cannons.
And those extra couple Stargates are going down for Neeb. So Fleet Beacon done. We've got Graviton Catapult on the way here. So he's gearing up for a carrier transition.
Oh, Nerchio's coming in from the south side, I believe, as well. I don't know how many units he has there.
Oh, the Banelings again leading the charge. That's a lot of Hydralisk running. All the High Templar are back here. Many Banelings left over. The Immortals and the Archons are holding strong. Is there enough for Nerchio to crack this defense?
Well, that's a pile empowering multiple cannons at once. It actually seems that Nerchio is kind of breaking through here.
He certainly is. The Mothership's coming down here, but she kind of sucks as a fighting unit. The Hydras are going to bully her back, and the Nexus is going to go down again.
Wow. Nerchio somehow making his way through all those storms, all the Archons, the Immortals, and the cannon as well. And look at this Mothership, it's taking a lot of damage.
Oh, big Stasis Ward from Neeb, stopping a lot of those Hydras. The Mothership is going to live for now.
Carriers are going to be on the way soon, but I'm not sure if Neeb dares to take the risk now. Obviously, if you start up carriers, they won't be there immediately, and Neeb is probably looking at this and feeling like, hey, I need units right here and right now. I can't be investing too much in these carriers.
Carriers take a long time to build, and they're very expensive. Nerchio not giving him any breathing room, coming forward with his Hydras again. Time Warp attempt here on the Hydras, but a lot of them just micro out of it. They're closing the distance again. Neeb desperately trying to reinforce with some charge lots. And Nerchio still has detection in those Overseers, so he can still fight.
Nerchio, Neeb waited a long time there to warp in a couple of units. Perhaps all of his gates were on cooldown. He had the Archons, but he actually had quite a bit of money to warp in some Zealots, and those were very exposed Hydra, so Archons and Zealots together would have done phenomenally there. But let's just assume all of his gates were on cooldown. Neeb has been floating a little bit in this game.
Yeah, his money's low again now, though, managing to spend it. He tries to retake this 5th Nexus, but Nerchio's like, not without a fight. Comes down with his Hydras, but Neeb is here with a bit more army. Doesn't have a lot of Storms, though.
He had to use almost all of them in that previous fight, right? Now, multiple Banelings are going to be in the mix again. Banelings very scary for these Zealots. Neeb is going to be forced to cancel this Nexus one more time. If I'm Neeb, I would actually just stay on the bases that I'm currently at and try to use those Stargates and that +1 air weapons that you've been investing in. But Neeb really, really wants this base, Maynard.
He certainly does, and Nerchio really, really doesn't want to let him have it. He just keeps pressuring, and it's where a lot of the battles have been in this game. The camera hotkeys and massive APM here from Neeb as he tries to multitask all over the place. Nerchio still threatening on this high ground, actually catching a lot of these Hydras with the charge lots, but pulling them back. That's a juicy storm there from Neeb, damaging a lot of the Hydras. Once again, his charge lot warp-ins are not doing a whole lot. He's not really utilizing Warp Prism again, so he's just sort of running them across the map.
That's hard though, because Nerchio's creep strat has been good throughout the series, and it's hard to find certain angles with your prisms, right? If your prism fly over the creep, it's not really going to catch your opponent off guard anyway. Nerchio is once again setting up a big attack to hit at multiple sides at once. Neeb doesn't have too many storms, but he definitely has at least a couple. And perhaps it's going to be enough?
He's got about 3 storms here in this army, I think. So Nerchio once again pressuring this Nexus as it gets close to completion, forcing Neeb to take a bit of damage, but he does put the Hydras up against the wall, get some very nice storms on the Hydralisks. And this time, Nerchio is going to get deflected and the Nexus will finish.
Well, Neeb finally gets what he so desperately wants, and that's that 5th Nexus. He did lose 10 probes in the process, but he still got 60 behind. Sending a couple of Zealots once again towards the left side just to be annoying. He's going to finally clean up a little bit of creep as well, which is actually a very big deal against this Hydra-Ling Baneling style that Nerchio is playing.
He's even getting Adrenal for these Lings as well, so they're going to have staying fighting power. The upgrades, of course, in 2-2 here. Nerchio might even go for 3-3 with these units.
Random Immortal.
What are you doing here, mate? Wrong part of town.
Donation.
The Feed Nerchio Foundation. All right. Well, this army of Neeb has that Mothership in tow, can recall if things get really, really dicey. And he's starting to move out the map for what feels like the first time.
No, at least cleaning up a little bit of creep. I don't think that Neeb, after finally winning a fight, well, I mean, he is going to step on creep. Let's. Does he have? Can we take a look at the energy on all these High Templars? Because I don't think you really want to move out without too many storms.
It's like one storm per High Templar, I think.
Yeah, close to it. Definitely not more than that, right? Yeah, so 85 energy-ish. So we're looking at 5 potential storms for Neeb. Now, if they just fight and the storms are good, then obviously Neeb's army is way more powerful. But on creep against Banelings, you always got to be a little bit careful.
It's very dicey. Nerchio has also been managed to win a lot of engagements in this map so far. Another charge lot run by here, attempt for Neeb, but again, Nerchio all over this.
Patching Glands.
Always going up into Infestors.
That's kind of odd to see Patching Glands in this
I think he expects carriers.
Yeah. But I mean, he sees his army as well.
Yeah.
And like, obviously, these carriers is something you always have to worry about. But if I would look at this army, I also kind of worry about it, Maynard.
Ooh. It looks like a run by here by Nerchio, going around the outside of the army for Neeb. No, he's trying to go for a flank. The right side of Nerchio's army is closing. The left side takes a bunch of storms. Can Neeb hold on here for this big Arca Hydralis? The Mothership taking a ton of damage. She moves to the middle of the ball of the Protoss units. The Immortals are doing a lot of damage, but Nerchio has way too much. Neeb gets crushed in the middle of the map by the Hydras of Nerchio.
Wow, sick fight there by Nerchio. You look at that Protoss army and you have like no idea how it's ever supposed to die. And actually there's still 2 units alive. But obviously Neeb is going to be forced to back off. 3 Banelings from the north side may not connected with the High Templars. Because by the time that Nerchio was coming in from both angles, only 2 High Templars were still alive. Nerchio's engagements has been spectacular, but this game is still far from over. If anything, Neeb still has the tools to technically deal with the army of Nerchio.
Both players with similar economies, both players with similar army counts.
What a game, man. What a first series of the day.
It's so close, so neck and neck, could easily go in either distance. One big mistake from either player will almost certainly end this game.
Definitely need more Banelings though if you're Nerchio right now. You look at all these Zealots, and if these Zealots get on top of your Hydras, you're going to have a very tough time. But of course, the higher the Baneling count, the more tricky it gets for Zealots to get the engagements that they are looking for.
Nerchio with a Ling run by here, but I think with the Charge Lot Warpins, he should be just fine. The Nexus is going to go up, but there's a Charge Lot run by here that looks a lot more effective. This Queen goes down. Nerchio's army needs to come down and deal with it, leaving a bit of an opening for Neeb to come and cancel the hatchery in the top right.
Yeah, but yeah, actually with the Archon there as well, and a couple of Immortals even, he should be able to get it cancelled quite easily. Now, of course, it wasn't for free because a couple of Zealots didn't go down on the left side of the map. What a tense game. I mean, Neeb's army is actually quite a bit bigger than the army of Nerchio. Nerchio's bank is starting to run very low, though. Nerchio needs to secure additional bases. The income is just not there at this point. But once again, Neeb's units are a tiny bit exposed here, and I don't think there are any storms. Potentially a surround, perhaps?
These Immortals are very, very important for Neeb, so if he loses these, this really does suck for him. Some of the Archons and Charge Lots starting to join into the fight, but they're a little bit late to the party. That said, though, he's closing in with some storms. Big storms here on the Hydras and the Banelings. Nerchio losing a lot of his army.
Yeah, Banelings do connect with a couple of units there in the south, but too many Archons, too many Immortals here. And once again, the economy for Nerchio is the biggest problem at this point, Maynard. You look at his bank, it's non-existent, and it's just not going up fast enough. Yeah. He's got 73 workers, but it really feels like he's not earning too much.
And also his army doesn't have staying power. You said on that tier 2 tech, he only has 2 upgrades. And he has Hive, but all he's gotten with Hive so far is adrenal glands for his Lings. And that's not that scary to a bunch of Archons and Charge Lots.
Recall?
Yeah, I guess so.
Why did he recall too? He's like, I guess Neeb is like, you know, multiple times I've been in a good position and then I overstayed my welcome on creep because I didn't know how much Nerchio would actually have. As you can see, Nerchio now taking the left bottom side.
Oh, he's desperate for gas right now. He has so little gas mining. That income difference.
But I think it's more... Yeah, he's not really mining much gas at all, but he could potentially still be mining. I don't think he emptied all of his extractors. I have a hard time believing that. But I think he just really wants more income. He wants to produce more units because he feels like he needs them. Neeb's army is starting to look very, very scary.
Oh, yeah. This is looking very, very good for Neeb at the moment with his army being so much more powerful and also better upgraded. Especially with shields finishing, it's going to make these Archons even tankier against, you know, the Lings and Banes of Nerchio.
Oh, did he?
He sees it.
Sees it, just doesn't care.
He wants a juicier target. He wants to go for the throat. Going up here to this base is very, very important for Nerchio. He doesn't have the gases on that base either. Oh, Neeb is pressing the issue on the other side. And he's used recall because he's on cooldown. So this is dangerous.
Yep, and Zerglings take care of buildings very fast. There is a storm, though, connecting with these Hydras. This is very scary and very annoying for Neeb to deal with, but at the same time, Neeb's army is still a lot more powerful than the army of Nerchio.
Oh, man.
And I love it. Neeb is just playing up his units.
Oh! Hydras all by themselves here. The High Templars are on the chase with the Archons leading it.
Oh, Hydra's so slow of creep.
That's it. Nerchio just doesn't have enough. GG! And Neeb spirals away with that one. Didn't have the explosive finish that we all wanted there with a big battle to decide it all, but Nerchio just bled dry slowly and slowly after those wonderful engagements that he had. And then once Neeb started to spiral out of control with those upgrades and finally finding harassment damage, finally making Nerchio use all of his resources, Neeb still with the bank to get it done.
Yeah, maybe not an explosive ending, but definitely a very explosive series, Maynard.
Absolutely.
With the amount of Banelings we saw, the amount of great engagements as well. Awesome first main series here in Group C. I loved it. Really good games.
Absolutely. And of course, for all you fans out there in the crowd and watching from home, this means that Nerchio is down, but he is not out. Plenty of series is left for him to stay alive in this group. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, an interview with Neeb, and then more StarCraft. We'll see you then.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Intel Extreme Masters. We just had our first match of the day, and Neeb comes out on top over Nerchio. So first of all, congratulations, Neeb. That was such a fantastic series. There's so much to talk about, so let's just jump right into it. I want to start with Katowice, because at one point you had a pretty scary army, and you were up economically well. He was still stuck on layer tech, but then the game still slipped away from you. So what went wrong there?
He did Hydra Bane, which I wasn't really expecting. Like, I expected more Lurker-heavy play. So I made Colossus, and because he just had Hydra Bane, I thought I could move out and be aggressive more, but my force fields were pretty terrible when I attacked into his natural, so he killed my entire army with Banelings. So the game kind of evened out, or even maybe a little in his favor after that point, so that's why it was close.
And then moving on into game number 3 on Acid Plant, it turned into the longest game by far. It just felt like there was so much action going on throughout the entire map, so walk us through everything.
The early game went pretty normal. I didn't do exactly what I wanted to do in the early game, but I think what I did worked out well. Like, I got a lot of drone kills with my oracles, and like, I was set up pretty nicely. Again, he did Hydra Bane, which I wasn't expecting. Like, and he committed to it really hard. Like, I expected him to go Hive or something at some point, but he was just only Hydra Bane the entire game. So like, I kept like thinking that I needed to attack or do something. So I would move out and just throw, and then he would like attack into me and throw, and then I would throw again. So we were just throwing as hard as we could, both of us.
Well, after a lot of throwing, according to Neeb, back and forth, you still came out on top. Now you have 1 win under your belt, and up next you have another PVZ coming up in Rogue. And Rogue, as we all know, was the WCS Global Champion last year. You played him in the group stage where you won one and he won once. So how do you think this rematch will go?
Rogue's still really good, but he's not as good as he was during BlizzCon, so I think it'll be really scary. I don't think my form is that good right now also, so... But I've been practicing a lot of PVZ, so maybe I can win. I don't know, probably like... He's probably just a little bit favored, like 60-40 for him maybe.
All right, well, we'll see how that match goes, as it is the next one coming up here on the mainstream. Kalaris, back to you.
Thank you very much, Smix. Indeed, Neeb wins 2-1 here, but a very, very back and forth series. As much as these two combatants are extremely powerful, it didn't seem like their exact form. But for me, looking at that, guys, especially Pig, I'm on to talk to you about this, it felt like Nerchio could have quite easily won that series, and especially in Game 3.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit back and forth. I don't know if I'd characterize it the same way Neeb does, calling it throwing back and forth, but definitely there was a lot of overextensions on both sides, right? There was a moment where he warped in a whole bunch of High Templar to make into Archons, forgot to split his army to deal with the 2-pronged assault, and realized he was A-moving High Templar kind of into Hydras and Banelings, and was like, ooh, that's not very good. But definitely I think Nerchio should have probably loaded up and started doing the split drops again, hitting multiple locations. He got a little bit too focused on that central base. The Mothership combined with the Storm, the Immortals, just great micro from Neeb, great crisis management on the defense. That's what he's been known for. It's what he's kind of made a lot of his success off. So he hung on just by a thread, managed to turn it around and get back in there.
Basically a warm-up game, it feels like that for these guys. It's a round-robin situation, so everybody's going to play everybody in this group Artosis. And actually, speaking of other games that have been going on, I think you did actually jump into Impact versus Serral, correct?
Yeah, his second match, right? He already won early on against Rogue with a 2-1 score, nice series. And so he played against Impact, and the first game was pretty close overall. Impact actually killed his third Hatcher off with a lot of aggression, but Serral was just kind of on top of his drones. He was on top of getting his roaches out on time. It turned into like a really big macro game. They both maxed out. Even got up to Hydralisk Tech eventually. But Serral just kind of like gained edges over time, was able to take that one down. Game 2, it was just, you know, a 13-12, a very aggressive Ling Baneling all in from Impact. And it lasted a long time. He ended up killing the hatchery. He almost killed it again at the natural there for Serral. But Serral doesn't really die to that build. His defense is quite stellar indeed, and eventually he just held after a lot of battles.
He's very used to playing in the European scene where all these Zergs are trying to do that to him time and time again. Let's check in with the standings as well to get you up to speed here in Group C as to what has happened so far. And as you can take a look, Serral at the moment representing Finland, the Finnish phenom himself, 2-0 there. Neeb just kind of scooting up on there as well. But the important thing is Serral has played 2 series and everybody else has kind of played not as many.
Yeah.
So these standings will change and shape up as things go on. Zest, uncharacteristically, losing his first series. Not the best start for Zest.
Yeah, good start from Impact, though. He just kind of came out with some aggressive strategies, got right in Zest's comfort zone and took him out. And Zest did make it through last year in second place, interestingly enough. He was in a group with Serral, and Serral actually won that same group. So there's plenty more matches. We talked about it a lot yesterday. You can even lose your first 2 matches and still turn it around here.
Right.
But it's time ticking out of the hourglass. Every time you go through a match, you need to start trying to, get it back. Once you get down to 0-3, you're pretty much guaranteed not going through.
Yep.
So once you're down a match, you start kind of getting that urgency in that sense of, I really need to start winning, especially since we look at Impact as one of the weaker opponents. Zest wanted that win, so now he needs to beat some harder opponents.
That's right, and Dark is the best example of that, if anything, from yesterday. Not having the best of starts, but being able to advance anyway. Thank you very much, gents. We are going to go to a short break. When we return, more action here from the Intel Extreme Masters.